Hi, and welcome to Psychology for Christians in our 10 Commandments series. This is number 7. Took me a minute to make sure I counted the right number of fingers. Okay, 7, Commandment 7. The commandment on adultery. Oh yeah. I mean, this is loaded. Depending on where you sit as a Christian, conservative to liberal, whatever, however you want to label that. This could mean promiscuity. What? See, now once you say it wrong, you can't say it right. Okay. Fornication. Right. Oh, all these scary words. When we look at adultery, it is an interesting word in Scripture, and it's used to refer to a few different things. In fact, it's found in prophecy even, because there's a deeper meaning behind this word. And so, really, it's important that you understand it is the word adultery and not just, sex or sex outside of marriage or sex or inappropriate sex or, because there's a whole bunch of that going on, in Deuteronomy and Leviticus. But the 10 Commandments is very specific, and it says adultery, and there's a reason for that. And Christ on the Sermon on the Mount expands this and talks about lusting after a woman. And this is where a husband is lusting after someone other than his own wife. And so the idea is you have created a separation now in that wholesome relationship, that marriage relationship. And that is the crux of it. And that's where the psychology plays a very important role, because adultery, it breaks the trust. It creates a disconnect in the relationship. So in that general sense, a lot of things could fit into that category. So we're just going to look at it from that point of view, because we want to find the psychology lessons. We want to find how can we make this practical and real. This is not so that you can go around and say, oh, here's proof you did commit adultery. Look what she says. All of the lessons that I try to share are for you to take personally to yourself, because it never works to try and convince someone else that they need help or that they're wrong. So that's, really, 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 really important, especially in this situation. So when we look at, can look at this two ways. One, how important it is to refrain from committing adultery, because it really creates this disconnection. But number two is, how do you heal from that? Like, what do you do if that does happen? And there are lots of different ways. Again, I can point you to the 5 Secrets of Effective Communication or Feeling Good Together book. I'll put those in the description below. And so you can find those if you want. You can just go to Dr. David Burns' website, feelinggood.com. But there are some simple biblical tools as well. Well, first of all, there's confession, right? And forgiveness. And so the partners need to come together and discuss this. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong and that he has permission or she has permission. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to get back to the root cause of this disconnect in the relationship. That's what I'm saying. And it's about letting go of what is blocking the communication. It's usually something to do with right. You're too strict, you're too lenient on the children. That's a big one, right? Money, whatever. There's all these topics that come up in a marriage, but there's a disconnect before that. Okay, time out. This is, you can tell probably the lighting is different. I'm in the middle of editing this video, and I realized I kind of missed some important information. It's important to note that even though I'm talking about how important connection is, and when a couple, they both feel really connected, it helps prevent adultery, there are, especially when we're talking about lust, other forms of adultery that are insidious and can start actually before the marriage even starts. Pornography is a really good example. And it is an addiction that afflicts a lot of men. And so that's happening because they're experiencing this lack. The other time there's an experiencing of a lack is sometimes and a lot of times, most of us, we're all human. We all have this sinful carnal nature. we have this lack inside, and I'm going to talk more about that later in the video. But that happens on both sides. And so I just want to be really clear that adultery is never the non-adultery committing spouse's fault. And so even though there are ways to repair it if you choose, and there's ways to prevent it by both people becoming really aware of what's going on in their marriage, what's going on for themselves, how are they doing spiritually, that's really important. And it's just, I wanted to take a little pause and make sure that that was really clear. And then I kind of did this long spiel about my marriage, and I just took that out because I don't really think it was as valuable as in the moment when I was talking about it. So you're going to hear me kind of jump in talking about how my husband and I work through some of our challenges that we face, because we don't agree all the time, and I think that we have found some ways to work through that. Okay, so back to the video. So how do we deal with those disagreements, and how does that not become a separation? I don't try and change him. He doesn't try to change me. I mean, that sounds really simplistic, but it is not easy. Okay, it is not easy. And there's times where I still try, and there's times where he still kind of tries. He's pretty good at. He's actually much better at this than I am. He really is. He's like, take it or leave it, and I'm like, but you know, can't you see that it's got to be like, you know, trying to convince him. Not that being said, it doesn't mean we don't discuss it. Nope, because you see, we're not worried about offending each other. We're not worried about getting into a big argument. We're not worried about the other person not agreeing with us. And so no topic is ever off the table. And so we can communicate about everything because we know the other person, even if they disagree, will just accept our position at some point. Now, it's like I said, it's not that we don't debate an issue. Sometimes that's the best conversations is to debate an issue. And, you know, it can get pretty heated when I debate issues with my dad. Usually it's a little more mellow with my husband. It always drives my husband kind of crazy. My dad and I are like, because we're both Italian. And it's like, well, anyways, but we totally love each other and we just find it fun. So that's the big thing. It's a big thing. Number two, the other big thing to help prevent adultery. Be comfortable with who you are yourself. You know what? God loves you. You're a human being. You have flaws, just like me. We all have flaws. I accept my flaws. I know I'm flawed. I have issues. You know what? I'm human. And that acceptance of my humanity, it enables me to grow in grace and actually change some of those flaws, and some of the flaws that I can't change, just embrace them and learn to adapt around those flaws. Like I have trouble with memory, I have trouble with communicating with people audibly if I can't see their lips. It's not a hearing problem, it's a brain problem. But you know, just that self-acceptance is so important. I don't need my husband to do anything for me. I don't. I have God for that. Now, that's not to say he doesn't. He's a great husband. But I don't put that burden is not on him. Our souls become so connected because they're already connected to Christ. If you connect to Christ first, Christ will connect your souls in a way that is so amazing. So I would say that's the two ways to prevent adultery in your marriage. One, you can't change the other person's mind. You can't expect to change the other person's mind. Feel free to communicate your opinion, show them all the facts, and then you have to sit back. Dr. Burns calls it sitting with open hands as a therapist, right? Like, this is the information, take it or leave it. I can't change you. Number one. Number two is be emotionally connected to Christ. He can fill everything you need. He can be your husband, your wife, your partner in such a way that, I mean, just amazing. And then you don't feel that emotional tension and need from your spouse. Yep, I'm interrupting again right at the end because I feel like this was just way too simplistic. simplistic. This topic is so much bigger, and we could spend hours discussing this. And so I just want to again say that this is just two ways to help utilize this commandment in our everyday life, you know, to apply it and make it practical. But there's so much more to a marriage and to communication and relationships and adultery and all of that. And so, yeah, I had to interrupt once again to make sure that was clear, because it just, yeah, I'm trying to keep these like really short clips that, you know, you can just get a few tools, a little bite-sized, you know, coffee break kind of information. But certainly this is a topic I will probably be talking a lot more about, because you know, two little tips, it's not going to be the end all for everyone. So if you have something specific you'd like me to address relating to marriage and adultery, I'd love to hear about it. All right, back to the video. I hope that was helpful. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments on this one. So please be kind, because we're all real people with real problems and real feelings. And your opinion is totally valid too. So just be kind in your language. So just go ahead and put that below. I'd love to hear your comments and suggestions for other topics. Don't forget to watch the other videos on this 10 Commandments series, Psychology for Christians. Please subscribe, and thank you for watching.